Yo, what's up? I'm so glad that you all joined me. Welcome to the Healing Exchange podcast. I'm Jacquilla McFarley. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to listen in on what I got to say. Or if you're watching me on YouTube or Facebook or wherever social media that you watch me on, thank you, everybody, wherever you are, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Thank you so much for watching me or hearing me. I'm so glad that y'all are here. So let's get to it. So y'all, I'm not a big talker. I am a woman of little words. I don't talk much. I'm an introvert. Meaning I like silence. I'm a great listener. So this is a big challenge for me, but we're going to get into it. I do want to share with y'all, just my testimony. I did want to come out with the first episode, just to share with you all my testimony and the things that I've overcome and the things that I still deal with to this day. I am a trauma survivor. I've dealt with trauma from the age 5 all the way up to my early 20s, probably up to maybe age 25. I'm 29 now, so I'm not that far removed. It's not that far ago, not that many years ago, but I did overcome it. So now I'm gonna give y'all a trigger warning. Now on these episodes, we might cry, we might laugh. Y'all gonna get to know me. I'm gonna have various guests. It's gonna be some triggering topics on my podcast, but I believe God inspired this, and I just feel like a lot of healing can come from me to you and vice versa, through conversation, through confession. Again, I do believe in the Holy Book where it says we must confess our sins to one another. And in that confessing our sins, I believe that there's freedom that comes after that. So I'm going to be getting free. I'm going to pray that you get free. This is not about me. As I talk, some of the things I may talk about may be me getting fresh revelation. May be a lesson for me, as I'm telling you, or as whatever guest I have on here is telling you. So we're getting free together. We're learning together. So this is not a thing where I'm just trying to give you a lesson or a life lesson. We're gonna get through this together. So this is a safe place. This is my living room. I am on my couch. You might see me in my PJs. Sometimes you might see me in my house clothes. You might see me dressed up. You might see me in some sweats like I am right now. You might see me with a full face of makeup. You're going to see me with different glasses on. You might see me laying down. That's just what this is. This is truth. This is authenticity. We're going to be talking. We're going to be telling the truth. So let's get started. Let's get it. So as I mentioned, my trauma started from when I was started at age 5. At age 5, was first, to be honest with you, trauma started when I was born, when I was a baby. My biological parents, they had me at age 16 and 17. My mother was 16. My father was 17. They were both high school sweethearts. They was each other first. And push came to shove as time went on. My mother got pregnant with me at age 16. Now, my mother is a preacher's kid. So her mother and father, my grandparents were preachers. So she got pregnant at 16. She had thought about an abortion, to have an abortion with me because of all of the pressure. And, I can't imagine. I can't speak for my mother as to what she was going through at that time. But I'm so thankful that she didn't carry out that abortion. So that's what I'm most thankful for. But here we are. She had me. I was born on Tuesday, March the 1st, 1994. My mother she had a C-section. And I can't really remember having like a close bond with my mother before age 5 because we don't remember much before the age of 5. remember a lot. So, per my mother, I did have a conversation with my mother finally, and she says that, she did her best and that she was there, but I just didn't remember it much. So, yeah, so growing up, my grandparents raised me. Again, they were preachers, so I was considered a preacher's kid. So my grandparents had 4 kids. It was my oldest aunt, my mother was the second child, my uncle, and my younger aunt. And I kind of grew up as the fifth child, because my mom had me so young. I kind of grew up with my aunts and uncles kind of grew up as like my brothers and sisters. Although I knew who they were, they just kind of felt like I was their siblings more than them being aunts and uncles. So that happened. My grandparents kind of took over with raising me as their fifth child, and time went on. I was a very quiet child. Didn't say much. Didn't speak much. I did speak, but not much. Just a very quiet child. I grew up. Once my aunts and uncles were out the house, I kind of grew up as an only child, so didn't have a lot of experience as far as like me having siblings or me having other children to play with. It was just me in the house. So starting at age 5 years old, my dad's side of the family, like my dad's grandmother, his mom, or his sisters, they would help my grandparents, my mom's side of the family, like take care of me or babysit me, or they would try to stay in the picture, and try to help out as much as they could. So there was a particular, I always say when I tell my story that my father was the first. He was the first man to ever break my heart. Whether I know he didn't do it intentionally, because again, he was 17 years old. So, but he was the first man that planted that seed, that hurt me, that seed of pain from a man. So, from then on, then you had my grandfather. He was, a pastor. He wasn't the perfect husband. He wasn't really the perfect, and not saying that anybody's perfect, but he wasn't that good of an example as he should have been as a man, but he was a great father, so just watching those two men, I already had kind of like I was a little iffy with men, just men in general. So age 5, my grandparents dropped me off to my dad's side of the family. I was at his mom's house, my grandmother, and I'm 5 or 6 watching TV. I didn't do much. I was a quiet child. I didn't do much. It didn't take a lot for me. You didn't have to make me take a nap or anything like that. I love naps. I love sleep to this day. Okay? I just love sleeping. I do. And that's another thing we talk about later that I got to work on. But anyway, so I didn't do much, and I'm just watching TV, minding my business, and one of my cousins, he came in. It was about 3 or 4 of his friends that came in, and everything was cool. They sat on the couch, and then next thing I know, I won't go into graphic details, but my cousin made me, and I don't want to say force. I would say made me. He kind of presented it in a way to where he didn't feel it was wrong, and he offered me money, so I didn't think it was wrong, because again, I'm a child. He was maybe about 25 at this time, and he made me perform sexual acts on him and his friends. So it wasn't rape, but it was molestation. He made me perform these acts, and every time I did it, he would give me $1 or $2 or whatever. Now, I was confused, because it was like, okay, usually when somebody gives you money, it's some sort of reward, or here is some sort of gift. So that's how I saw it. Okay, he's giving me money, but why don't I feel better about it? Why don't I feel good about this? So I knew enough to know, okay, this is still wrong, although he's offering me money. So That point gave me money. I remember going to the store and buying candy, sour candy, but still feeling inadequate, still feeling really low. Like, what did I just do? Like, it was like my unconscious at age 5 was telling me, okay, this is wrong. But consciously, my cousin is telling me, like, no, this is right. It's nothing wrong with what you're doing. And another seed planted. Another seed planted from a man that made me have a distaste for men. So my life goes on, 6 or 7 years old, 6, 7, 8 years old. Um, Still being raised by my grandparents. My family is a very musical family. Um, Either someone played an instrument, preached, or sang. So I grew up. I kind of fell in the instrument era with my family. I learned how to play the drums. I'm growing up. I'm growing up in church. We were Pentecostals. Time goes on. That incident made me even more silent. So I definitely didn't say anything after that, to where my family thought that something was wrong with me. Like, I was slower than most kids, but they knew that wasn't the case because I excelled and I was excelled in school. I just didn't like to talk. Um, as trauma kept happening, the more silent I got. So time goes on. Of course, I don't tell anybody about that. Um, Parents still not really in the picture. My mom is here and there. My dad is there when he wants to be. Um, I'm in elementary school, 3rd grade. I'm about 8 or 9 years old, and there was this time when my biological mother, she had this boyfriend. He had like 10 kids, and my mom had came to pick me, and at this time I had a little sister. She came and picked us up, and I didn't want to go over there because it was so many kids, and again, I'm not used to sharing anything. I'm raised in the house as an only child. But I went because I wanted to spend time with my mother. I didn't see her that much. So let's go. Let's do it. So me and my little sister went. I took my bicycle. One of the best gifts that my biological father bought me, a bicycle. I think it was that same year, Christmas, or the year before Christmas. And I brought my bike because I'm like, look, I'm not about to play with these kids. I'm just coming over here for my mom, and I'm just about to ride my bike because I come from a small town, and in that small town, everything is around the corner. The store is around the corner. Your mama house over there, your granddaddy house over there. Everything is a few blocks away to where you can walk. I was in a small country town, Popka, Florida. So I go over there. My mom's boyfriend, he lived right around 1 block away from my great grandma's house on my dad's side. So I'm like, okay, I'm just finna ride my bike. I'm finna go to my great grandma's house. So I rode my bike to my great grandma's house so I don't have to play with these other kids. And so I ride my bike. I speak to my grandma. My great grandma would get me on some weekends, and I loved it because I would go over there and it'd just be me and her and my granddaddy. And I sit in her rocking chair, eat ice cream sandwiches, and drink Coke. No, it was Pepsi. I would drink a Pepsi and just watch Judge Joe Brown, or we would watch Cheaters or some show, but it would be so quiet. That's why I loved going over there, because it was just so quiet. I didn't have to play with nobody. It wasn't no kids over there. I love spending time. That's why I have an old soul now, because I hung out with older people growing up. So anyway, that was a tangent. So go over there. Hey, grandma. She said, hey. You know what, baby? Be safe on that bike. I was like, all right, grandma. Love you. Because I just went to speak to her, say hey, and be out. I think I got an ice cream sandwich or something. And I left. And I think my granddaddy gave me like $5. I don't know. And I left. So, coming back around the block to where my mom was, her boyfriend's house, I'm riding my bike on the sidewalk, riding my bike. Now, my mother has a street past. She was in gangs. She was a clubber. She was a drinker. She was a smoker. In and out of relationships. My mom was the rough, tough one. She was a fighter. Everybody knew my mom in that small town to where it's like, oh, that's your mama, don't play with her type thing. My mom had that type of reputation. So my mom had a few enemies, naturally. And so I'm riding my bike down the sidewalk, and here comes, I don't even know what type of car it was, but this car comes driving fast and turned onto the sidewalk, hit me. Hit me while I was on my bike on the sidewalk. I flew in the air. It felt like I was flying, but I flew in the air, landed on her windshield, broke her whole windshield, and then landed on the ground. And she sped off. Thankfully, that could have been worse because she could have ran me over because I was on the ground, and she kept going. She went to jail for a hit and run, of course. But yeah, hit me, and she knew my mother. I don't know if there was a vendetta. I don't know what the situation was. I don't even know if she knew me or knew whose child I was, but I just knew she turned and hit me and kept going. So I was in newspaper. I was on the news. Everybody came rushing because I was in the middle of the street. Everybody came rushing. My bike is totaled because I was knocked out for a moment. I was knocked out and unconscious. Then I woke up. All of these people are over me. Are you okay? My grandma, my daddy, my whole family got there. And then the ambulance came. And the miracle about that story, though, I was only in the hospital maybe for a day. And I only had a sprained left foot. I had no broken bones. And I remember the doctor saying, yo, he didn't say yo, but he was like, wow, God must have had you in the palm of his hand, you know? And I still remember that doctor's face. I still remember how he said it, the look on his face when he said it in amazement. And I knew, okay, God, at 8 years old, I said, okay, God, you want me here for a reason. So fast forward, I walked on crutches for a few days, but really it was just a sprain. So time goes by. I'm in school. I'm in middle school now. I go to my grandparents' house, my great grandparents' house regularly. Now it had become every weekend. In this one particular time, I went to my grandparents' house. Now I had a cousin. I had a male cousin. His mom was my great aunt. They lived in the back of my great grandparents' house. My favorite cousin, he was maybe 16 or 17 at this time. I was 12. And every time I went over there, he was always nice. I trusted him. We played together. He gave me money when I wanted to go to the store. Never gave me any aggression, and it was something. He became my favorite cousin because of that. Because again, as I told y'all previously, I had this kind of perverted feeling of men, just men in general, just from that seed sown when I was a baby, from till 5 years old, from my daddy, and then my grandfather. It was just like, I was very uneasy about men, you know? So he was nice to me, and it kind of made me feel good. I'm like, wow, men can actually be nice. Men can be really nice. So I trusted him. I couldn't wait to go over there because I knew my favorite cousin was going to be there. So this particular time, I went over to my grandma's house. Everything's normal. She said she wanted to go to the store. I think this particular time I didn't want to go. I don't know why. I just didn't want to go. So I'm sitting in her rocking chair, watching Judge Joe Brown while she's gone. I don't know where my grandfather was, but I'm watching Judge Joe Brown. I'm chilling. And then I just remember sitting there, and then my cousin comes in, and it was just, he had this darkness in his eyes. Like, it was just, he was just different. It was like an aura about him. So I'm sitting, I'm watching TV, and then all of a sudden, my cousin reveals himself, reveals his genitals to me. So I'm shocked. I'm like, well, what was that for? And then he rapes me. He rapes me. He takes me aggressively. That he rapes me. He raped me. And I remember laying on the couch, just so very confused. Like, it was so painful that I didn't even feel nothing. Like something, you know how you can, like, physical pain, like something hurts so bad to where you just go numb. You don't even feel it no more. Like, it's just numb. I was just numb all over my body, numb emotionally. I couldn't really cry. I think I was just shocked. I was in such a shock. And so I went home like, okay, maybe, just confused, man. And I went back that next weekend, and the same thing happened. It was just more brutal objects. It was just more brutal. And then I'm like, okay, I think that was my last straw with men. And that's when I started having these feelings for women, because trauma really does mess with you psychologically, because I had this deep hate for men to where I was literally afraid, fearful of a man. All I knew is that men hurt, that all they do is hurt and take. But with a woman, although my mother was the only woman that hurt me, it was like I wanted to fill a void with women, because I wanted that mothering, comfort, loving, void that I needed, that I didn't get from my mother. And it drew me more to women, to where I started walking out homosexuality from in middle school. Of course, in middle school, it was more private, because back then you didn't really just come out in the open with that type of thing, because it was frowned upon. It's still, frowned upon, but a lot of people are more open with it. Back then, nobody was really open with it. So, had my attractions to women. Never went back to my great-grandparents' house ever again. And my great-grandmother was very confused. She didn't know why, and I never told her. So, growing up, when I hit high school, man, high school is when I really, came out. I came out. And not, out, like, the whole world knew, or, I dressed in a way that everybody knew that I like women. But my friends knew, my peers knew, that, look, this is me, or I thought that was me. So I came all out in high school. I was very popular in high school. Had the friends, had cliques, whatever, had many girlfriends, just playing around. And I was very comfortable with women. And in high school, I had grown women, women in the church, grown women with kids, and, women my age. I was all the way out there with the women just to get comfort. Some would spoil me. Some would give me money. I can stay the night at some's house, whatever. Of course, it was sex. But I was just all the way out there in high school, and I was comfortable. They brought me comfort. So when I got to the 10th grade, I think my life really, really, really took another terrible hit. In the 10th grade, 10th grade year was normal. About maybe halfway through the year, I was in history class. I was in second period. I remember it. And second period, just sitting there, this man, he teaching about something boring. I'm not even paying attention. So I cough. And when I coughed, I saw blood in my hands, like little sprinkles of blood. And I'm like, oh snap. So I'm thinking it's a nosebleed, because I had nosebleeds ever since I was little from like dryness and allergies and stuff. But it came out of my mouth. So I was like, okay. So I coughed again. It was a lot of blood. So I said, hey, got to go to the bathroom. And nobody could really see it because it was in my hand. So as I'm leaving the classroom, I'm coughing up even more, just coughing. And there's blood everywhere now. So I text my friend, I said, hey, tell the teacher I'm going to the nurse because I'm coughing up blood. And she runs to the bathroom like, oh, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I just need to go to the nurse. So I went to the nurse. Nurse sent me home, of course. I get home, I lay down, and I keep coughing up blood. And my grandmother comes and she's like, let me see, spit in the tissue. The blood was a consistency that was okay. Something going on. So we go to the ER, and in the ER, we sit there. They give me, they ask you about your history. Has anybody ever had this, that, cancer, whatever? So they give me a tuberculosis test, and they call it TB, but it's tuberculosis. So they stick a needle in your skin, like not in you, but underneath your skin. They put some type of liquid, and if you swell up real bad, then you have it. If you don't swell up, if it goes down, you don't have it. So my arm was like a big ball right here on my arm, swole up really bad. So long story short, I had tuberculosis and I had pneumonia in my left lung. So those two together, because of course tuberculosis at that time was, it still is contagious, but at that time it was, at my age and coupled with pneumonia, it was kind of fatal, and then I was so far into it to where my whole left lung was black. And I'm fighting this immune disease, tuberculosis. So I end up in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 9 months, literally dying for 9 months. Left lung black. I had to take 9 quarter-size pills, literally quarter-size. I'm not exaggerating. They were some big pills. Take them. I was so weak. I couldn't walk on my own. I couldn't eat on my own. I couldn't stand up for a long time, or I would pass out. I had to get help all of those 9 months. So go through that. It's about time for me to get out of the hospital. 9 months later, I still had to go home and be home for a while. And I finally get my phone, and I'm checking, I'm a kid. I'm checking my social media. I'm checking who texts me, whatever. Come to find out, I was the topic of discussion in the whole city, at my school, mainly at the high school. So again, tuberculosis is contagious. It's airborne. You can get it. Somebody cough and you inhale it, you got it, basically. So because I had it, I was the first to have it at my school. The whole entire high school had to get tested. Everybody had to get tested. The teachers, the deans, the students, everybody. So all of this is going on. I don't know how the kids found out it was me. I understood why the staff would know, but I don't know how the students found out that it was me. That I guess it was obvious because, I wasn't in school for a long time. I don't know if they put stuff together, but whatever. Long story short, they found out it was me, and I got all this hate mail on my wall. I say hate mail, but text messages, inboxes. I think it was Facebook at the time. Just people, the students, their parents calling the school. Like everybody, it felt like everybody was blaming me for spreading it. But it was like, okay, but it's not my fault that I got it. So it was like they was blaming me for having something I didn't ask for. Or I was intentionally spreading this disease. And I got so much hate, man. I was bullied. I was cyber bullied real bad. I had to get escorted to school. I couldn't ride the bus because people was threatening to jump me. Um, just a whole bunch of stuff. And then it was that day came where it was time for me to actually go back to school. And I'm crying to my grandma like, look, Mom, I don't want to go. These people, they going to kill me. They going to look at me funny. I don't want to go. Can I just be homeschooled? And my grandma was like, no, ain't having it. She put some scriptures on my backpack. She encouraged me. She prayed with me. And she said, no, you going to face this. You going to go. You going to face it. And before you know it, it's going to be over. But I know you can face this. So next day, she has to take me to school, of course. I still remember the look on my grandmother's face when I looked at her before I got out the car. And she looked at me as if she wanted to rescue me, but she knew this was a battle I had to endure. And she didn't say anything. She watched me get out the car. She said, I love you, and I went in. As soon as I opened the door, y'all, to the school, the double doors, immediately I get looks. Oh, that's her. Or whispers. Oh, that's her. Oh, they called me the TB girl. They gave me a name. They called me, oh, that's the TB girl. Oh, shit, that was the one that had the TB. Just all that for like 1 or 2 months straight. When I had to walk down the hallway and people spreading out and walking away from me as if I was a walking disease. Like I only had 2 friends that came and hugged me. And yeah, even I remember walking up to a class, going back to a classroom and hearing the teacher talk to the students about me. Like, how do y'all feel about her being in this class? And I know you guys are uncomfortable. I tried to get her removed, but she has to be in it. The teacher now, and they were going off, no, we don't want her here. Like, no. I had one girl in that class to stand up for me. And to this day, that same girl is my close friend today. Because she stood up for me. She said, y'all act like this girl is spreading this intentionally. Like she caught this disease on purpose. And she had a point, because it's like, I didn't ask for that disease. I didn't ask to catch it, and I didn't spread it intentionally. If I knew I had it, I wouldn't spread it intentionally. So that happened in the 10th grade. I was 15. God showed up for me again. God has always been in my story somewhere. My whole life he's been there. I'm healed. I have the same left lung today that was black. And those same people that were bullying me my junior year, I became very popular, and all of those students looked up to me, and I had more friends and I had more popularity, and that's how that story ended. So got through high school, everything was good, graduated, 18, I'm out now, I'm busting wide open. Now throughout this whole time, my mother, she was here and there. My father lived around the corner, but didn't see him much. So this whole time, my grandparents are raising me. And, I'm growing up a preacher's kid. Again, I'm still in the church. I'm on the drums. I know a lot about God. So still in homosexuality. After high school, 18, graduated, got into a relationship with the first woman I fell in love with. Well, she was a girl at the time, and it was an abusive relationship. I was the abuser. I can boldly say that because I was hurt, and not abusive as in like I necessarily beat on her or anything like that. It was just like verbally abusive. There was some physical abuse. It was some emotional abuse. A lot went on in that relationship. Relationship ended. Heart was broken. Ran back to God. Left my grandfather's church. Joined another church in our local city. And from that church, that's when I learned God outside of religion. When I first There was a seed planted for me to have a relationship with him. At 19, now I'm still doing my thing. I'm still clubbing. I'm still in the streets. I was drinking at 18, underage. I was driving with no license. I was going to the club, driving drunk, just out there, man. And it was just only by the grace of God that I didn't kill nobody driving drunk. I didn't end up in jail because I got into fights at the club, or I didn't, kill myself because of so much of the trauma that I was going through. Only by the grace of God. It's like he preserved me and kept me that whole time. That whole time he preserved and kept me. So, playing the drums. My godmother came into my life at age 18. I met her at church. She came into my life. She helped me to tap into my femininity, helping me to see what it truly is like to be a woman. So I started playing around with makeup, with dresses, because before then I didn't dress as a boy and what the African American culture would call a stud, which is a woman who puts on this kind of hyper masculine identity where she sags her pants and wear boxers and dresses like a boy, but she's a girl and she's putting on as a masculine figure. I wasn't that, but you could see the tomboy in me, so I started my godmother, she helped me to, okay, try this, try that, because she didn't agree with my lifestyle, but she loved me. She loved me and she saw the gifts in God in me. So I'm doing that here and there. So I decide, I'm like, okay, since I'm doing this femininity thing, I was in college, community college, originally trying to be a pharmacist. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. So 2014, something else tragically happened. So I'm in college. My grandfather that raised me, he had gotten sick. A year into college, he had gotten really sick, really ill, all of a sudden. And, now he's in the hospital before I know it. Now he's in hospice and now he's dying. So I'm like, okay, I've never had anyone to ever die in my life. I don't know what death. I knew people died, but I didn't know. Nobody taught me about death as it relates to life. So long story short, he's in the hospice. I'm in school. My aunt calls me, hey, cool, you need to get down here right now. Dad ain't got long. So I speed out of class. I get on the city bus because my school was like down the street from where he was at in hospice. I get on the city bus, get off the bus. The bus dropped me off a mile before the actual hospice place. Get off the bus. I run like a mile straight, just 4 foot flat, running, trying to get to my granddad. Get there. He can't talk. He can't see. All he's doing at this point is just breathing. So I'm like, man, how did that happen so fast? And I break down, of course, because I'm like, wow, this is really about to be it. He is about to die, but I still couldn't believe it. So I'm sitting there. My godmother came. I'm sitting on her lap like a little girl, because that's how I felt, like a little girl. So we chilling. And then he stops breathing. He stopped breathing for like 15 seconds. And he's breathing in slow, like, and then he stops breathing. And this time it's 30 seconds. And then he stops breathing again. And this time it's about 45 seconds. And then he's breathing again. Now, in this whole process, I'm having heart palpitations. I got anxiety. Like, what's going on? Is his heart skipping a beat? How do we stop this? Do y'all got medicine? What's this stage? What's this process? I don't know what's going on. And then after 45 seconds, he breathes again. And then that's it. That is it. He took his last breath. Then come back. And it's kind of like I saw his soul leaving his body, kind of like, I guess, in a spiritual way. And of course, my family breaks down. Everybody breaks down. I got into bed with him after he had died. I got into bed, I held him, and I cried. His body was cold. His body was hardening. And I'm like, wow. And that was the first time I had ever lost somebody like that was really close to me. Because my grandfather, he raised me. He wasn't a perfect man. He had a lot of flaws. I didn't agree with everything that he did. I didn't like how he treated my grandmother sometimes. They were married for almost 50 years before he died. I didn't, but he was like my best friend. Of course, they spoiled me rotten. He enabled me in some things that weren't right, but he showed up. He was dad, and he died. So that completely shattered my world. Femininity went out the window. I went back to the streets. I was clubbing, doing everything under the sun, having sex with all types of women, 3 relationships at a time, drinking. I became an alcoholic, real bad alcoholic. And and I still get anxious. That's why my voice is shaky, because I still remember it. But so still stayed in church though. One thing I could never leave was God. I could never, because it was planted in my heart so deep that I could never stray away too far from it. So that happened, back and forth with, okay, I want to be the woman God calls me to be, but I still want to go out and club and be with a woman. Like, okay, God, if you want me to be saved, I don't want to date no man. I still had this thing with men. I'm like, if I'm saved, that means I got to be straight. Just had a totally, like, it's like, so I was double-minded, basically, coddling the fence here and there, going back and forth at age 18 to 20, back and forth, really longer than that. So time goes on, still doing my thing. And so, maybe around 2015, I became real close with this guy that was, we grew up in church, we both were in the church. He was like a friend. And I started to have an affection for him, and we started to like each other. And I shocked myself. I'm like, wow. And I liked him because he was kind. He had showed me everything opposite of what I knew of a man. And we were grown at this time. And he was the first man that I had gave myself to consensually. After we had sexual intercourse that one time, this man completely flipped the switch. He became manipulative, controlling, and not knowing he had a girlfriend this whole time. But I still gave this man my body for years after that, because I had gave him something sacred. He was my first that I gave myself to. So that became a verbally emotional abusive relationship, and it was just on and off. So meet another man that I met. I don't even remember. I think we met through school, and met him. He was nice. This was maybe a couple of years later, and he was nice. We were friends for a long time, and then we ended up, getting into a relationship. I had got pregnant with his baby. Didn't find out I was pregnant until I was about 2 months pregnant, and I started feeling funny. I went to this clinic, and they told me, yep, you're pregnant. I remember dropping down to my knees like, oh no. And then I was grown at this time, but still I was like, oh no, I'm in the church. By this time I'm at a different church with a different pastor. And at this church, that's when I started learning more about God, more of a spiritual level. And I was playing drums and I had gotten pregnant and told my family everything. The biggest thing I was afraid of was telling my pastor. She was a woman pastor. I was so afraid to tell her, but I told her, and she completely she went off on me. She pointed her finger in my face, told me that I was an embarrassment to her ministry. And after that, y'all, I was done with church. I was so done. I was completely done. And after being done with the church, I had my baby's father. He kind of had an emotional break, like, you need to get rid of this baby and you're going to ruin my life if you have this baby. Just a whole bunch of stuff going on at one time, to where I ended up getting an abortion. It was $600. The baby's father paid $300. I paid $300. You can either get a pill where you take it and miscarry like at home, or they can do the procedure. I chose the procedure. I wasn't going to go through that at home. And the terrible part, though, about the abortion, you go to abortion clinic and they do an ultrasound because they want to make sure that you are sure. Like, okay, we getting rid of this baby. And y'all, I laid on that table and saw my baby on that screen and completely lost it. But I had the abortion. And I know people say you shouldn't have regrets, but that is one of my biggest regrets, getting rid of my child. Because every year I keep up with how old she would have been. I gave her a name, and it's still a regret that I have in my life. And I'm against abortions, for sure. And I don't recommend it because it changed my life for sure. So had that abortion, done with men again, back to women. I'm clubbing. By this time I had moved out of my grandma's house. I have a roommate and we going half on the bills. We partying every weekend. I started smoking weed heavy. I started to become more of an alcoholic. And then, y'all, time went on. God kept working on me. I stopped going to church for a while, but he led me back to a ministry that I'm still a part of to this day, that helped me and nursed me back to health. Spiritual health, physical health, emotional health, because I was really in a bad place. And I know my testimony was so long and so much went on, but the thing that I'm most grateful for is God's forgiveness, God's grace, and God's mercy, because I'm not dead. I'm still here. I'm talking to you. I'm able to tell my testimony. I was able to forgive those people and myself, and go to certain people to ask for forgiveness, because I was no angel. I was able to take accountability. I got into therapy. Y'all, I'm a big advocate for Jesus and therapy. Jesus coupled with therapy, powerful combination, let me tell you. So got in therapy, got to know Jesus, got mentors, got a different church community, got my leaders to hold me accountable, got into a new environment. I have my own place now. Fast forward now, I wrote my own book. I have my own book. I wrote about my story, published it. It's still selling. And I published that book last year, 2023, on my birthday. I'm back in school after quitting. I have new and better connections and better relationships. I'm on this mic talking to y'all. I would have never been on a mic talking to anybody. I like being quiet, y'all. I didn't like talking. So here I am, y'all. And I say all of that to say that God truly preserved me. He was with me. He had never left me. through all of my mistakes, through my stumbles, through my trauma, through my pain, all of that stuff he allowed for a reason. He allowed it for a reason. He didn't allow it because he's bad. God is a good God. Everything about him is good and it's holy. He allowed it for me to be here today, for me to help other people, because it's never been about me. It's never been about me, but it's always been about others, saving others, coming out on the other side, going through all of those struggles and that pain, and coming out on the other side so I can tell the next woman or the next man or that next child, you know what? I went through that, but here is how I made it out. This is who I have over my life. God, Holy Spirit. This is what I believe in my heart. This is how you can make it, and give tools and resources and steps to get them through it. You have to be willing to do the work. And I did the work, and I'm here. And I'm not here saying that I'm perfect. I'm still working. I'm still working. There are times I still get triggered. And go backwards a little bit because I done got triggered. There are times where I be tripping. I be flat out tripping. But through all of that, God teaches me something, and I fall forward. I don't fall backwards. I fall, I get back up. Triggers are teachers now for me. If I get triggered about something, that just shows me, okay, that's still a sore spot that you need to work on. You need to work on that, and it helps me to take the lesson and not be a victim. It's time out for us to be playing victim, y'all. It really is. When are you going to be victorious? And this is not to say, oh, get over it, but it's to say, hey, do the work so you can move forward and overcome it. Not get over it, but overcome it. So let's overcome it. Let's do it. That's my story. This is me. I'm Jacquilla. Healing Exchange Podcast. I see y'all in the next episode.